All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development 1100 C# programming class for the summer 2023 semester, I've been doing a series of introductory type videos based off of the uh, book that we're using for the class, that being Murachs C# 8th edition. All right. I've gone through the first 19 chapters. Before I will go into chapter 20 and 21 and 22, I decided to take a break away and talk a little bit about databases. So I went and showed you how to set up an entire schema. All right. And then we added data into the schema. And then we wrote some queries. And in those queries, I've shown you select statements, delete statements, update statements, and insert statements. So really the only thing to do is to talk a little bit about some of the DDL, the data definition language. So I have shown you this already, believe it or not. This create, when I went in and made the tables, we did a create table. All right, so that was adding that schema. What I'd like to do now is show you an alter table. I want to alter the employee table to add a salary field. And I went and I looked up W3 Schools alter table statement. So here's an example. So I'm just going to grab that example. And we'll put it in here because this has been our queries. So I guess that would make sense. The last one that we just did, so that was 26. This was 27. And then we ran 28 to make sure that that worked. All right, so now this will be number 29. Alter table example. All right, now I'm going to put this down here, but we're not going to keep this. And I'm going to alter the employee table to add a new numeric field called salary. So I do want to do this, but I don't want to do it exactly like they're showing, because the table I want to change is employee. The field name I want to add is salary, and it's going to be a numeric field. And I'm trying to remember here. I'm using MySQL, but I want to just put in here just SQL data types. I don't want date and time. We could do some work with that too, but I really don't feel like it right now. So SQL data types for MySQL SQL Server, that's what I want. And it's even from W3 Schools. So there we go. So this has got what? It doesn't have a money field. It does have a decimal. We'll use that. Size D. We'll use that because I think that works inside of SQL Server also. Decimal PS. Okay, good. All right. So we're going to add a salary. It's going to be of type decimal. And we're going to suppose that the biggest salary somebody can have is $1 million. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0.00. So if we count, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 digits in here. And there are 2 digits after the decimal point. So that's where I get this from. So I'm going to come in here and attempt to do this. All right. Now, be very leery of this because technically it's going to be added, but it will allow nulls, and it has to because we've got 11 employees that do not have a salary yet. All right. So let's first of all see if this works. All right, it's not giving us any errors. As always, good start. All right, so we click go, and it says return an empty result set, but that's good. It worked. It gave us the green check mark. So if I look at the structure now, you'll notice that I now have a salary field in here. All right, and I'm going to come in and I'm going to update, okay, and add some different salary stuff in here. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it by department. I'm making all this up. All right. So let me come over to department. And there's our departments. There's 7 of them. And I'm just going to, again, like I said, I'm making this up. So I'm going to suppose in here that, let me just add this. I'll put it down here a bit. If you work in shipping, you make $40,000 a year. If you work in receiving, you make $45,000 a year. All right. If you work in accounting, you make $60,000 a year. If you're in programming, of course, we're the hardest workers, so you make $75,000 a year. If you're in payroll, let's say they make $47,500 a year. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got web design and human resources. So if you're in web design, you also make $75,000 a year. And if you're one of those human resource doofuses, pardon my French, and I shouldn't say that. We have a human resource person here, Janice Ballman, who's one of the hardest working people I've ever seen and one of the nicest people I've ever met. But at my old job at the school I used to work at, I'll just say it and it'll be online. I thought, in my opinion, for whatever it is or isn't worth, the human resource person was a doofus. So he makes $35,000 a year. All right. So I want to add those. And there's different ways, of course, that I can do this. All right. Probably the easiest way is to do updates. Okay. So I'm going to come in here and you'll notice I'm going to update the salaries. They're the same for programming and web design. So let's do those first. So update salary for all programming and web design employees to $75,000. All right, so I'm going to update. The table will be employee. I will set salary equal to $75,000. Don't put commas or dollar signs, etc. None of that in here. Where, and that is what did we call that? Department code. Where department code equal, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6. So where it equal 4 or department code equals 6. Now that'll work. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I want to show you what's considered to be a little better way of doing it. All right. So instead of saying where this or this, I can also say where department code in 4, 6. A little less typing, a little more compact. All right. Let's do this just to make sure it works. So let's make this 85, and then we'll cut it back down to 75. I'll run both queries. So I'll run this one first. Again, you'll notice we have no errors. We'll know right away whether or not it worked. It said 5 rows got affected, 5 of our 11, but let's do this. Let's select star, not from department, but from employee, and let's see if those 5 employees now have salaries. And you'll notice, if we move that over, they do. The ones with no salary, theirs is null. All right. Okay. Well, that's good. Let's try running the other one to make sure that works. So we're updating it. So here we set it to 85. Here we're updating it to 75, but we're using the in. Just to make sure, to show you there's another way of doing it. That's all. Again, no errors. And it says, again, 5 rows affected. So if we, again, select star from employee, we should again see the same thing, but now it should be 75,000 instead of 85. So 75, 75, 75, 75, and 75. So those all worked. Okay, so that was an example of both working with an older table and doing an update one way and doing an update another way. All right, but we still have who left. So in other words, we've now, I'll just put an X here, we've done those 5 and we've done those. Well, there's 5 between them. So let's do the other ones. I'm just going to come down here and do this. I'm going to update the salary for all shipping employees. And that gets updated to 40,000. All right, so that is where department code, it's not 2 of them, so we can just say equal 1. And that's 40,000. All right, let's see if that works. So again, if we select star from employee, we should now see 1 or more, depending on how many we had, that have 40,000 for their salary. There's 1. And that was the only one. Okay, let's do the rest. I'm not going to keep checking them every time. So let's just do the rest here. So we've now done shipping. So let's do receiving. And that's 45. And that is if the department code equal 2. All right. And then we've got, so that was number 32. Then we've got accounting. And that one was for 3. And that one is $60,000. All right, and that's number 33. And that'll fix this one. I don't think we have any human resources people, but that's okay. We're still going to do it anyway. The next one was payroll. I'm sorry. That was payroll employees. And that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that was 47.5. And then finally, we've got HR. And like I said, even though we don't have any HR employees, we want to do that anyway. Why? Because it's just good practice to do so. And I want to say this again. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Ms. Bowman, I think it is, our HR director. It's where I used to work that I had a problem with the person. And he'll probably say he had one with me as well. So that is 7. This we've already done, the web design, so that should be everything. Now, you could technically write this as one huge query. All right, so I could say set salary equal to this, and do an and or whatever. I don't like doing stuff like that. I just find that way, way, way too confusing. So this is now number 32, which will make that 33. So let's grab these. And I'm just going to run them, and unless I get an error back when I run them, I'm going to go on to the next one. Okay, no rows affected, so I must not have anybody who is in shipping. Okay. Thought I did, but maybe I don't. This is receiving. Oh, I didn't update it. So update employee. Set salary. And what does it say? Employer. Boy, oh boy, Jeff. Okay, that affected 1. This will now be 34 and 35. Okay. And this is accounting. Again, I don't know if I had any accounting people in there or not. Two. Okay. Then this is for all payroll. And again, I may or may not have had payroll people. And I know I don't have anybody in there for HR. Okay. So I had 2. It looks like that we're in payroll. And let's do this. All right. Let's change the code on one of these employees. We'll update the code on one of the we don't have to. It's okay. That's fine. I'm just going to put the last one in here, which is this one. I mean, we could put one, make sure we had one of everybody. Okay. This will say no records affected because I don't have anybody working there. But if I do come back here and I select star from employee again, they should now all have a salary. And you can see that they do. Okay. Now I very, very quickly want to show you how else we could write some of these commands, just so you see these. Okay. Now I'm going to come back here for new, and I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm going to go to SQL. I'm going to type in here, create database. Okay. And I'm going to put in here junk, because it is. It's just going to be junk. Okay. And I'm going to run this. Now you'll notice over here, I have nothing named junk. But when I click go, there's junk. All right. So now I can go into junk, and I can, as an example, I can create table T1. Okay. And in here, I can put in field 1, and I can make it an int, and I can make field 2, and I can make it, I gotta spell it right, a varchar, which is 50. We'll just leave it at that. All right. And I can put in my ending curly, and I can run this. Now you'll notice in junk, I've got table T1. There it is. What I was trying to show you was I can use just create commands to do some of the stuff I've been doing. Now, if I don't want that table anymore, T1, I can come in here and I can do a drop table T1. Click go, and you'll notice it says, do you really want to? Yes. And T1 is now gone out of junk. I can also get rid of the database itself. So I can say drop database junk. All right, click that, and junk is gone. So what I have shown you are 36 queries. All right. First, we started off again, and we went in and we created the schema for 3 different tables. They're all simple. We had an employee table. Remember, these backticks are not mandatory. The system put those in. So we made an employee table with about 9 fields in it, and we had a primary key of employee ID, which was an integer. None of these can be left blank. They're all not null. Then we created a state table with only 2 fields in it. Again, neither can be null. We had a state code like MO and a state name like Missouri. All right. Then we did one for department. This was different because the primary key in here was an int, whereas the primary key in here was a char, and the primary key in here was an int. So when we put in the data for the employees, we did not have to put in any data for our employee ID. We did not have to do that, and the reason we did not have to do that, all right, the reason we did not have to do that is because it was already set up as an auto increment field. All right. But since state code is not an auto increment field, since it's a string, we had to put in the primary key value for each one of these. All right. And then for the department, it was similar to the employee. We only had to put in the department name, not the department ID. All right. Then we ran about 30 queries where I showed you the basic DML or data manipulation commands. Those being, as mentioned right here, select, which allows you to view data but not change it. Delete, which allows you to delete or remove existing data. Update, which allows you to change existing data. And insert, which allows you to add new data. We looked at examples of all of those. Then, really more in this video that you're seeing right now, we went over the DDL commands. All right, create, alter, and drop. When you use create or alter and drop, you have to tell it what you're creating. Create database, create table, etc. All right. And then finally, like when you do an alter table, alter database, drop table, drop database. All right. So we've gone through a lot. We have not gone through everything, but hopefully this will help your understanding as we head back into our book and in just a couple of moments. And when we head back into the book, so let me take some of this stuff. Well, let's see. We're going to head back into the book, and when we do, we're going to jump back into chapter 20. Now, not everything that we do in here is going to look exactly the way that we just did it. And if you say, I don't understand, you will when we get going. But this book uses SQL Server. I used a different relational database because I wanted to give you something that was semi-GUI so you could see it. All right? So I'll be back to talk to you about Chapter 20 in just a couple minutes.